Commander Krix 998 had seen many species across the galaxy. The Vorthak with their 8 eyes and violent tendencies. The peaceful Melodians who sang instead of speaking. The shape-shifting Nexari who could mimic any form. But humans? Humans were supposed to be simple, weak, easily controlled. That assumption was about to bite him in his scaly behind. "Sir," Lieutenant Zar called from his monitoring station, his voice trembling slightly. "The human subject is requesting access to the recreational facilities again." Krix sighed, his gill slits fluttering with annoyance. 3 months. 3 whole months they'd kept this single human specimen aboard their research vessel, the Tormented Glory. The plan had been straightforward. Capture a human, study their weaknesses, develop weapons to subdue their entire species. Standard protocol for any new civilization they encountered. What they got instead was Maya Torres. "Tell me again why we can't just dispose of this particular specimen and acquire a more cooperative one," Krix asked, though he already knew the answer. "Sir, the human homeworld's defense systems proved more challenging than anticipated. This was our only successful extraction before we had to retreat." Zar's tentacles twitched nervously. "And the High Command specifically ordered us to keep this one alive until we understand their capabilities." Through the reinforced viewing panel, Krix observed their captive. Maya sat cross-legged on her cell floor, braiding what appeared to be threads pulled from her clothing. She'd been doing this for weeks, creating increasingly complex patterns. When questioned about it, she'd simply smiled and said she was keeping busy. That smile. By the ancient spawning grounds, that smile haunted Krix's dreams. "Sir?" Zar interrupted his brooding. "She's requesting to speak with you directly, again." "Absolutely not. The last time we had a conversation, she somehow convinced 3 of our guards to question the ethics of our mission. 2 of them requested transfers to cargo duty. But sir, she says she has information about human military capabilities that might interest the High Command." Krix's mandibles clicked together in thought. Information was valuable. And perhaps this time, he could maintain proper interrogation protocols without falling victim to whatever strange influence this human possessed. "Very well. But I want the entire security detail present, full restraints, and under no circumstances is anyone to engage in casual conversation with the specimen." 20 minutes later, Krix found himself face-to-face with Maya Torres in the ship's interrogation chamber. She sat calmly in the center of a restraint web designed to hold creatures 3 times her size. The energy bonds hummed softly around her wrists and ankles, but she seemed completely unbothered by them. "Commander Krix!" Maya's face lit up as if greeting an old friend. "Thanks for finally coming to visit. I was starting to think you didn't like me." "I do not like or dislike specimens," Krix replied stiffly. "I am here to gather intelligence about your species' military capabilities. Nothing more." Right. The whole conquer humanity thing." Maya nodded sagely. "How's that working out for you so far?" Krix bristled. The expedition had been less successful than projected. "Our reconnaissance of your homeworld revealed significant defensive installations that were not detected in our initial scans." "Oh, you mean the ones hidden on the dark side of the moon?" "Yeah, we figured you guys would show up eventually. Humanity's been watching the skies for a while now." This was new information. Krix leaned forward despite himself. "You anticipated our arrival?" "Well, not yours specifically, but we've been picking up chatter from various galactic civilizations for decades. Did you really think we were just sitting around picking our noses while the rest of the galaxy played politics? Your species has only achieved basic spaceflight within the last century. Your technology is primitive compared to—" "Primitive?" Maya laughed, and the sound sent an inexplicable shiver down Krix's spine. "Commander, you guys spent 3 months trying to break through our primitive digital encryption to access our databases. How'd that work out?" Silence fell over the interrogation chamber. Their top cyber warfare specialists had indeed failed to crack a single human data system. The excuse given was that human programming was irrationally chaotic, and defied logical analysis. Lucky guess, Krix muttered. Sure it was. Maya's grin widened. Just like it was luck that your ship's navigation system started glitching after you brought me aboard. Every eye in the room turned to stare at her. The navigation issues had been classified information, known only to senior officers. How could you possibly know about... Commander, you've been studying me for 3 months. Did it never occur to you that I might be studying you back? The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Krix felt a cold certainty settling in his gut that this conversation had taken a very dangerous turn. What exactly are you implying, human? Maya shifted slightly in her restraints, and Krix noticed for the first time that the complex braiding she'd been doing wasn't random decoration. The pattern seemed to match the ship's corridor layout. Perfectly. I'm not implying anything, Commander. I'm telling you straight up. While you've been trying to figure out how to break humanity, I've been figuring out how to break your ship. Lieutenant Czar made a strangled noise from his position by the door. Sir, should we contact security? No need, Maya said cheerfully. They're already aware of the situation, aren't you boys? The 2 guards flanking the entrance shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a massive Bruthan warrior named Gorth, cleared his throat nervously. Sir, the human has been helpful with our duties. She showed us more efficient patrol routes and helped optimize our sleep schedules to reduce fatigue-related errors. She what? Krix's voice cracked with disbelief. It seemed harmless, sir. The suggestions were logical and improved our performance metrics significantly. Maya nodded approvingly. Gorth's been working double shifts to support his clutch siblings back home. The old patrol schedule wasn't giving him adequate rest cycles. Basic personnel management, really. Krix felt his worldview tilting dangerously. You've been manipulating my crew? Manipulating? That's a harsh word. I prefer optimizing. See, while you were busy treating me like a lab rat, I noticed something interesting about your species. You're all incredibly dedicated to duty, but your command structure doesn't account for individual needs or circumstances. It's actually pretty inefficient from a productivity standpoint. This is preposterous. You're a prisoner, a specimen for study. Am I, though? Maya asked, tilting her head curiously. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like I'm the only person on this ship who's actually solving problems instead of creating them. Before Krix could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Commander Krix to the bridge immediately. We have a situation with the energy distribution network. Krix's gills flapped frantically. What kind of situation? The human's suggestions for power grid optimization appear to have worked too well, sir. We're operating at 127% efficiency, and Chief Engineer Vex doesn't understand how it's possible. Maya's smile grew even brighter. Oh, that? Yeah, I noticed you guys were routing auxiliary power through some really inefficient pathways. Simple physics, really. Energy wants to take the path of least resistance, so I just showed Vex how to give it what it wants. You've been talking to my chief engineer. Well, he was complaining about power fluctuations during my evening exercise period. Seemed rude not to offer suggestions. Krix stood abruptly, his chair clattering backward. This was spiraling completely out of control. Lieutenant Czar, confine the prisoner to her cell immediately. No further contact with any crew members. Actually, sir, Czar said hesitantly, there might be a problem with that. What kind of problem? Well, the human has been helping with our communications array. The improvements she suggested have increased our long-range transmission capability by 40%. If we cut off her input now, we might lose contact with the high command. Krix stared at his subordinate in growing horror. She's been working on our communication systems? Maya raised her hand as if she were in school. In my defense, I only fixed the obvious problems. Your original setup was kind of a mess. No offense. How is this possible? Krix whispered. You're supposed to be primitive. Helpless. We selected your species specifically because your technology was inferior. Oh, our technology probably is inferior, Maya agreed readily. But here's the thing about humans, Commander. When we can't out-tech a problem, we outthink it. And when we can't outthink it, we outstubborn it. And when we can't outstubborn it, her smile took on a distinctly predatory edge. We get creative. The ship's intercom crackled again. Commander, this is Chief Medical Officer Theiss. I need to speak with you about the human suggestions for our biological waste processing systems. Krix felt something inside his brain break. Our waste processing? You let her near our waste processing? Sir, her recommendations have eliminated 73% of our contamination issues and reduced processing time by half. I've never seen anything like it. Maya shrugged modestly. Composting isn't rocket science, though in this case, I guess it kind of is space science. Your ship was basically a flying petri dish before I got involved. This ends now, Krix roared, his voice echoing off the chamber walls. Guards, return the prisoner to her cell and post a constant watch. No one speaks to her. No one takes her suggestions. No one so much as looks at her without my direct authorization. Gorth and his partner exchanged uncertain glances. Sir, with respect, the human hasn't actually done anything harmful. In fact, her input has improved morale and efficiency across all departments. She's manipulating you, all of you. This is exactly what they do. They seem harmless and helpful, and then... Then what, Commander? Maya asked quietly. The amusement had faded from her voice, replaced by something that made Krix's survival instincts scream warnings. Then we take over your ship, turn your crew against you, escape and bring back the human fleet to rescue me. The silence that followed was deafening. Because here's the thing, Maya continued, her tone conversational but somehow deeply unsettling. If I wanted to do any of those things, I already would have. Your security systems have more holes than Swiss cheese. Your crew is overworked and underappreciated, and your ship's computer network has the password protection of a child's diary. Krix felt his legs give out. He slumped back into his chair, staring at this small, seemingly defenseless creature who had just casually admitted to having complete access to his vessel. What do you want? He whispered. Maya's expression softened slightly. Honestly, I want to go home. I want to see my family again. I want to sleep in my own bed and eat food that doesn't taste like recycled protein paste. She paused, studying his face. But I also want you and your crew to make it home safely, too. What? Commander, you guys are terrible at this whole galactic conquest thing. Like, really awful. Your reconnaissance was sloppy, your intelligence gathering was non-existent, and your prisoner management is a joke. She leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed. But you're not evil. Misguided, maybe. Following bad orders, definitely, but not evil. Krix struggled to process this. You're trying to help us? I'm trying to keep everyone alive, including you. Because here's what you don't know about humans, Commander. We're not just good at solving problems. We're really, really good at creating them for people who threaten our families. The communication system buzzed again. But this time, the voice that emerged made Krix's blood freeze in his veins. Attention, tormented glory. This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Human Defense Force. We are aware that you have one of our citizens aboard your vessel. You have exactly 1 hour to return Maya Torres unharmed, or we will demonstrate why attacking Earth was a very poor decision. In the stunned silence that followed, Maya Torres looked directly at Commander Krix and asked the question that would haunt him for the rest of his natural life. So, Commander, when you locked those doors for safety, was it for you or for me? The hour that followed Admiral Mitchell's transmission was the longest of Commander Krix's life. He sat in his command chair, watching the main display show 17 human vessels maintaining perfect formation just outside weapons range. They weren't moving. They weren't broadcasting. They were just waiting. Sir, Lieutenant Czar whispered, his voice barely audible. The human fleet. Their ships are unlike anything in our databases. Krix squinted at the tactical readout. The human vessels looked almost organic, their hulls flowing in curves rather than the angular designs favored by most spacefaring civilizations. Are those Modifications? Negative, sir. Our scanners indicate those ships were built that way, but the energy signatures are confusing. Confusing how? Chief Engineer Vex's voice crackled through the comm system. Commander, I've been analyzing the human fleet's power output. It makes no sense. Their ships should be operating at maybe 60% of what our sensors are detecting. From her position in the bridge's detention field, Maya Torres cleared her throat. That's because you're measuring wrong. Human engineering doesn't follow your standard power-to-mass ratios. Every alien on the bridge turned to stare at her. After the revelation in the interrogation chamber, Krix had decided to keep Maya where he could see her. It seemed safer than wondering what she might be doing elsewhere on the ship. How are we measuring wrong? Vex demanded through the intercom. Maya shrugged as best she could within the energy restraints. You're assuming our ships work the same way yours do. Linear power distribution, centralized command systems, traditional propulsion. But humans are kind of weird about engineering. We tend to overcomplicate things in ways that somehow make them more efficient. That's impossible, Krix muttered. Complexity reduces efficiency. It's a universal law. Is it, though? Maya asked with that maddening smile. Tell me, Commander, how many backup systems does this ship have for critical operations? Standard protocol requires 3 redundant systems for all. Krix stopped, realization dawning. You're saying human ships have more redundancies? I'm saying human ships are basically flying redundancies with some weapons bolted on. We design everything assuming it's going to break, get shot, or catch fire. Usually all 3. Maya's grin widened. Makes for very interesting performance characteristics when nothing actually goes wrong. A new voice joined the conversation from the communication station. Sir, the human admiral is requesting direct contact with our prisoner. Absolutely not. No communications with Commander Krix, Maya interrupted, her tone suddenly serious. I strongly suggest you take that call. Admiral Mitchell is not known for her patience. How do you know anything about this, Admiral? Because she's my aunt. The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of ship systems. Krix felt his gills slits close involuntarily. Your aunt? Sarah Mitchell. My mother's sister. Currently the most decorated combat veteran in human space, commander of the 7th Fleet, and holder of approximately 14 different medals for creative problem-solving in hostile situations. Maya's expression turned apologetic. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Lieutenant Czar made a sound like a deflating balloon. Sir, the human admiral is transmitting again. She's requesting immediate visual contact with the prisoner to verify her condition. Krix looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Fear, confusion, and dawning comprehension stared back at him. They all understood now that they weren't dealing with a primitive species or a helpless prisoner. They were dealing with a trap that had been springing slowly around them for 3 months. Patch her through, Krix said quietly. The main screen flickered, and Admiral Sarah Mitchell's face appeared. She looked remarkably similar to Maya, with the same dark eyes and determined expression, but where Maya radiated cheerful confidence, the Admiral projected the kind of calm authority that came from commanding warships. Maya, the Admiral said, her voice carrying both relief and carefully controlled anger. Are you injured? Hi, Aunt Sarah. No, I'm fine. Actually, I'm having quite an interesting time. Did you know that Zoranthian ship architecture is based on hexagonal efficiency principles? It's fascinating from an engineering perspective. Admiral Mitchell's eyes narrowed slightly. Maya, are you being coerced into making positive statements about your captors? Nope. They're actually pretty decent people once you get past the whole kidnapping humans for scientific study thing, though their prisoner management protocols could use some work. Krix watched this exchange with growing bewilderment. The Admiral seemed less concerned about rescue operations and more focused on her niece's assessment of the situation. Commander Krix, Admiral Mitchell said, turning her attention to him. I understand you've been studying my niece for approximately 93 days. That's correct, Krix replied stiffly. Standard research protocols for newly encountered species. I see. And what have you learned? The question caught Krix off guard. He'd expected threats, demands, or ultimatums, not a casual inquiry about research findings. We've learned that humans are more complex than our initial assessment suggested. Admiral Mitchell's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes reminded Krix uncomfortably of Maya's predatory smile. Complex how? Your niece has been providing suggestions for ship operations, minor improvements to various systems. Has she now? The Admiral's tone remained perfectly neutral. And how have these suggestions worked out? Well, they've... Krix struggled to find words that didn't make him sound like a complete fool. They've been effective, surprisingly so. Commander, Admiral Mitchell said quietly, I'm going to share something with you. Maya Torres holds advanced degrees in systems engineering, behavioral psychology, and strategic planning. Before her capture, she was serving as a consultant to our Defense Department on alien psychology and technology integration. The blood drained from Krix's face. She's a military specialist? More specifically, she specializes in understanding and optimizing complex systems under stress conditions, including command structures, technological networks, and crew dynamics. The Admiral paused. Tell me, Commander, how would you rate your crew's morale over the past 3 months? Krix looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him expectantly, but there was something different in their expressions. They looked relaxed, confident, more engaged than he'd seen them in years. Morale has been unusually high, he admitted. And your ship's operational efficiency? Significantly improved across all departments. Admiral Mitchell nodded slowly. Commander Krix, my niece has been conducting a 3-month masterclass in organizational psychology using your ship as a laboratory. Every suggestion she's made, every conversation she's had, every improvement she's implemented has been part of a comprehensive analysis of your species' social and technological capabilities. Maya waved cheerfully from her restraints. Surprise, though in my defense, you guys made it really easy. Your original systems were held together with what humans would call hopes and prayers. Krix felt reality reshaping itself around him. You've been studying us. Well, yeah. Did you think I was just going to sit in a cell for 3 months doing nothing? I'm a scientist, Commander. When I see interesting problems, I solve them. When I see inefficient systems, I optimize them. When I see people working hard but getting poor results, I help them do better. But why? Lieutenant Czar asked, speaking for the first time since the Admiral's arrival. If you could have escaped or sabotaged our ship, why help us instead? Maya's expression grew thoughtful, because sabotage would have gotten people killed, your people. And despite what you might think about human nature, most of us don't actually enjoy causing unnecessary harm. Admiral Mitchell's voice drew their attention back to the screen. Commander, I have 17 ships under my command, each one crewed by humans who are very unhappy about one of their own being held captive. However, based on my niece's apparent well-being and her assessment of your crew, I'm prepared to offer you an alternative to the standard rescue operation. What kind of alternative? Krix asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. A cultural exchange program. The bridge fell silent. Even Maya looked surprised. Aunt Sarah, what are you talking about? Maya, your reports over the past 3 months have been illuminating. Your observations about Zoranthian social structure, their technological approaches, and their capacity for adaptation suggest they might be valuable allies rather than threats. Krix blinked rapidly. Reports? What reports? Maya held up her braided cord creations. Remember these? Fiber optic data transmission. I've been sending regular updates to Earth through your own communication array every time you ran system diagnostics. Did you guys seriously not encrypt your diagnostic protocols? Chief Engineer Vex's voice crackled through the intercom with what sounded like grudging admiration. That's actually brilliant. Our diagnostic systems are designed to optimize data flow, not secure it. By embedding her signals in the optimization patterns, she turned our entire ship into a broadcasting station without us even realizing it. Krix finished, his voice hollow. Pretty much, Maya agreed cheerfully. Though I want to emphasize that I only transmitted observational data and system improvement recommendations. I didn't share any classified information about your military capabilities or strategic plans. Admiral Mitchell nodded approvingly, which is why I'm willing to make this offer, Commander. Your species clearly has valuable technological knowledge, and my niece's reports suggest you're capable of significant adaptation when properly motivated. I'm proposing a formal first contact scenario instead of a rescue operation. First contact? Krix repeated weakly. Official diplomatic relations between our species, cultural and technological exchange, mutual cooperation instead of mutual destruction. The Admiral's expression hardened slightly. Assuming, of course, that future interactions don't involve kidnapping our citizens. Krix looked around his bridge. Again, his crew was watching him with expressions of hopeful anticipation. Over the past 3 months, they'd experienced the most successful operational period in the ship's history, all thanks to a single human's suggestions and insights. What would such an arrangement involve? He asked carefully. To start with, Maya comes home with me. Your ship is welcome to follow us back to Earth for formal negotiations. We have facilities specifically designed for hosting non-human visitors. And I think you'll find our diplomatic corps much more professional than our Defense Department. Maya raised her hand again. Can I make a suggestion? You've been making suggestions for 3 months, Krix said with weary resignation. What's one more? Commander, your crew has been working really hard to follow orders that frankly didn't make much sense. The whole Conquer Humanity plan was doomed from the start, because whoever designed it didn't understand what they were dealing with. But that's not your fault or your crew's fault. You're good people trying to do your jobs with bad information. She paused, looking thoughtful. Humans have a saying. The best way to destroy an enemy is to make him a friend. I think that works both ways. Instead of you trying to conquer us, or us trying to defeat you, maybe we could just work together. Share knowledge, solve problems, make both our species stronger. Lieutenant Czar spoke up hesitantly. Sir, the human suggestions have improved every aspect of our operations. If their entire species thinks like this, the potential for technological and social advancement would be enormous, Chief Engineer Vex added through the intercom. Krix sat quietly for a long moment, processing everything that had happened. 3 months ago, he'd captured what he thought was a primitive specimen from a backward species. Instead, he'd found himself hosting an alien consultant who had systematically revolutionized his ship's operations while conducting the most comprehensive analysis of Zoranthian society in their recorded history. And she'd done it all while being genuinely helpful and considerate to his crew. Admiral Mitchell, he said finally, I accept your proposal for formal diplomatic contact. Maya Torres will be released immediately and safely returned to your custody. Excellent. I'll transmit coordinates for the formal meeting. And, Commander, thank you for taking care of my niece. Based on her reports, you and your crew have treated her with more respect and consideration than many of our own species would have shown. As the communication ended and the energy restraints around Maya powered down, she stretched and grinned at Commander Krix. So, about that question I asked you earlier. When you locked those doors for safety, was it for you or for me? Krix considered the question carefully. Over the past 3 months, Maya had been confined to protect his ship and crew from potential human threats. But, in reality, she had become the most valuable member of his crew, improving their lives and capabilities in ways he never could have imagined. I think, he said slowly, it was supposed to be for us. But it turned out to be for you instead. Maya nodded approvingly. That's usually how it works with humans, Commander. We're really good at turning protection into partnership. As Maya prepared to transfer to her aunt's ship, she turned back to address Krix's crew one final time. Thank you all for making my stay here educational and surprisingly enjoyable. You're good people, and I hope this is the beginning of a long and productive friendship between our species." She paused at the airlock and looked back at Commander Krix with that familiar, mischievous smile. "Oh, and Commander, you might want to check your ship's efficiency ratings after I leave. I may have made a few more improvements than I mentioned." As the airlock sealed and Maya Torres returned to human space, Krix realized that his failed conquest mission had become something entirely unexpected, the foundation for an alliance that would reshape both their civilizations. Sometimes the best victories came from admitting defeat, and sometimes the most dangerous prisoners turned out to be the greatest gifts. 3 months later, when the joint human-Zoranthian research station was completed, Commander Krix would look back on Maya's question and finally understand the real answer. The doors had never been locked for safety at all. They had been locked to keep two species apart until they were ready to learn from each other. And Maya Torres, with her impossible optimism and relentless problem-solving, had simply picked the lock.